Welcome everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for tuning into this AMA and Epoch 10 review. Thanks to those who are in Europe who have tuned in late again to listen and ask any questions. As usual, we're really excited to keep up these AMAs and Epoch reviews with you all. Both dYdX and dYdX Foundation are aiming to become more transparent and open with their thoughts and everything pertaining to dYdX and the DAO. Again, we've got a POAP for those who are attending, and this will be dropped probably midway through this Epoch review. Alucard.eth, who's in the audience here, will likely post a link in the Hedgies general channel, and a secret word will be required to submit that Google form, so pay attention to that. Again, as usual, let's start off with a few housekeeping rules. Please keep the questions you want asked posted in the Discord. As usual, after the Epoch review, we'll open up the stage for an AMA, and when you do request, and if you're invited up, please refrain from any price discussion. And so that being said, here today from the foundation team and myself, David and Josh, we also have Clifton in the audience there, and from the trading team are our routine speakers, Corey and Mark. So for the TLDR of today, David will spend some time going through all things Epoch 10. Questions will be addressed to the trading team and touch on all new developments at dYdX, and then Mark will touch on a few other, mainly legal elements. David will then answer questions relating to the foundation, and we'll finish off with an open platform for all questions requested to you by you all here today. Again, as usual, it would be great to hear your thoughts on how we can potentially better run these meetings in a more interactive manner. So if you've got any questions, we're happy, or any suggestions, we're happy to hear them in the comments and or at the end of this. I'll pass over to you, David. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, James, and welcome everyone. So similar to past Epoch reviews, I'll kick things off by just providing some highlights and KPIs from Epoch 10. All of this will be published in a blog post on the foundation website in the near future, if it hasn't been done already. Just kicking things off. So total volume on the protocol during the last Epoch decreased pretty significantly. It was approximately $28 billion, and the average daily volume decreased to about $1 billion. In addition, ending open interest decreased to around $640 million, and TVL decreased a little less to $849 million. Obviously, we're in a general bear market and a challenging environment that is affecting all of crypto and in DeFi in particular. Generally speaking, our volumes have traded downwards, in line with centralized exchanges. Having said that, our market share in terms of volumes, is approximately, relatively stable. So I think, it is a reflection of just general market conditions. And as the market, recovers at some point, we're well positioned to grow with that. But it's clear that from a pure metric standpoint, the last Epoch was a challenging one, but we continue to build and focus on the long term. In terms of wallets, so last Epoch, there were approximately 7,000 unique wallets that earned 5.8 billion dYdX through trading, liquidity provider, and staking rewards. In the last 10 epochs, there's been approximately 52,000 unique wallets that have previously earned rewards, and there are currently 23,000 unique wallets that currently hold dYdX and 3,000 unique wallets that currently hold staked dYdX. I would say I find this quite encouraging, actually, given the volatility in the token price and just general market sentiments. We've actually seen the number of dYdX holders stay relatively flat every epoch for the last few epochs, and then we continue to see the trend of an increasing number of wallets staked to the safety module. And so again, I think this shows kind of the long-term focus for some of our token holders, and generally this has remained relatively flat epoch over epoch. In terms of the LP rewards, so 43 addresses were eligible for LP rewards last epoch. This epoch, there's 47 addresses, so 30 existing and 17 new ones that did more than 25 basis points in maker volume in the last epoch, and thus are eligible to participate in LP rewards for Epoch 11. Ever since the formula change last epoch around how the LP rewards are calculated, we have seen the competition in the pool increase. I think it probably takes a few epochs for dynamics to fully play out. And clearly, there's a lot of compounding variables with the market more broadly, but generally, I think if you look at the preliminary data, the changes to the LP rewards did result in a more competitive dynamic between existing market makers, and so that's overall encouraging. On the liquidity module side of things, so there was 273 million USDC staked at the end of the epoch from approximately 690 users. At the start of Epoch 11, there's currently about 247 million USDC actively staked and earning rewards. And same dynamic as in the past, there's 5 market makers that have borrowed that capital. It's still largely underutilized relative to how much is staked. And this is an increasing area of discussion within community members around how to think about this pool and how to potentially optimize or reorganize the liquidity module more broadly. Lastly, on the safety module, so there's currently 36 million dYdX staked from 3,000 users. Again, we've seen this number increase as the circulating supply of dYdX has increased, with stakers locking up their funds for at least a month and really having kind of a long-term view to earn additional dYdX with their existing dYdX. At the end of the epoch, there's currently, or soon to be, 11.29% of the total dYdX supply in circulation were considered liquid. Again, this has increased over the last 10 epochs or so and is now above the 10% threshold required for a long time lock vote. So really at this point, the community has the ability to make any changes to the governance contracts using any type of executor contract that is available to them. I think lastly, on kind of the broad kind of delegate side of things, Josh and team have worked really closely to really expand our endorsed delegate program. We currently have 11 endorsed delegates, and we encourage anyone interested in becoming an endorsed delegate to formally apply. If you don't have time to review proposals, if you think gas is too expensive to vote on chain, or you just don't have the time to stay involved within the community, we encourage you to stake your dYdX to endorse delegates who can be champions for you within governance and be involved in some way, shape, or form. Other updates on the governance side. So, last week we saw a snapshot poll that was submitted by Reverie to add 5 new assets to the smart contract. That vote to add 8 Stepin, Phantom, Axie, and Optimism to the exchange had nearly unanimous support from about 11 million dYdX and 477 voters. So really encouraging to see that. I think Chaos Labs and Reverie have been working to form a new asset listing committee and trying to put together a process to add new markets to the protocol. So excited to see that materialize over the course of this epoch and to really nail down a process to reflect community demand and really list the markets and assets the community is interested in trading. I think other updates from kind of Commonwealth and the forums more broadly, I think it's been really encouraging to see just the breadth and engagement from some of our ambassadors, how they've been proactively shaping discussions on Commonwealth. So just to list a few, so Stark Whale posted a DRC to improve the current trader rewards mechanism by replacing them with Epoch rewards with time-staked USDC to function as a protocol credit line. I encourage everyone to check out that thread. dYdX created a DRC to increase the accountability and transparency of the dYdX grants program, highlighting really important questions around accountability and transparency and making sure that all community members are aware of what's going on. Lememe posted a DRC about providing hedging holders with the opportunity to mint and distribute 10 referral links. Really interesting kind of ideas around how to drive growth for hedging holders and drive growth for the protocol overall. We also saw a proposal from Devin Matthews from a blockchain at Berkeley team, who's exploring the possibility of adding dYdX, i.e., compound dYdX, to be staked in the safety module, and thinking about how to drive utility for dYdX in the broader DeFi ecosystem. So overall, some really interesting food for thoughts. Encourage everyone to check out Commonwealth, participate, ask questions, come up with your own proposals, and engage in ideation to drive the protocol forward. Lastly, just a few updates on the ambassador program. So obviously, we at the foundation have been working with all of our ambassadors over the course of season 0. James has done a fantastic job onboarding 17 ambassadors who are actively contributing to the 6 boroughs, the Analytics Bureau, the Governance Bureau, the Media Bureau, Risk Analysis Bureau, Student Bureau, and User Onboarding Bureau. These boroughs are really a step in the direction of multiple sub-DAOs with functional kind of alignment with the protocol. And it's great to see over the course of season 0 some really awesome output from all of our ambassadors. As we move into season 1, all of our ambassadors have been actively sharing updates on Discord, on Commonwealth about their plans, and have built some really awesome community tools for people to stay on top of all the things going on. But overall, been very impressed by the quality of our ambassador program and the output that people have started to ship. Lastly, on the DGP side, so I think we have hopefully Carl or someone from the grants program on here, but they have finalized kind of their funding for grants version 1. They've distributed 62 grants to with over $2 million in funding, and have announced that new grants are currently paused to preserve remaining capital for existing commitments. The DGP is working on a proposal to continue operations and are currently focused on increasing the completion rate for existing grantees and making sure that they provide marketing and showcase all of the grants that have been completed over the last few months. So excited to continue to see more grantees execute there and finalize some of the commitments. Lastly, just some updates from the dYdX trading side over the course of the last Epoch. So obviously the trading team launched the public iOS app. Encourage everyone to check that out if you haven't already. And again, a huge thank you to all beta testers for their time and effort. The product continues to evolve and iterate with user feedback, and encourage everyone to continue to post important, insightful product feedback in the product feedback channel and through other channels more public. This Epoch, the dYdX trading team also announced the self-service affiliate program, where affiliates can receive ongoing payments based on trading fees generated by acquired users. So, if you're interested in becoming an affiliate, encourage you to check that out and start referring users to the protocol. And yeah, I think that's kind of the major updates on the trading side this epoch. Lastly, from an administrative standpoint, the Epoch 10 ended on June 7th at 3 p.m. UTC. Epoch 10 rewards will be claimable on the dYdX.community website on June 14th at 9:15 UTC, 9 p.m. 9:15 p.m. UTC. So that's 7 days after the end of the epoch, plus a 6-hour delay. Once tokens have been claimed, they can be transferred, staked to the safety module, or delegated to the ambassadors or really anyone else in governance. That's it on my side. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, David. That was great. We can move straight on to then Corey at the dYdX trading team. Corey, just a few questions from your end. Is there any update on V4 that you can share?
Hey guys. Yeah, so we're actually working on a public-facing update for V4 that should be coming out within the next couple of weeks. So definitely stay tuned for that. We're going to be sharing basically all the progress that we've been making, release some more updates on like what actually V4 is going to look like to the best extent that we can. And so yeah, just stay tuned for that blog post. Again, that'll likely be released within the next 2 weeks.
Awesome. I'm really excited for that. And in the meantime, are there any new features being launched from a product perspective pre-V4 that users can look forward to?
Yeah, for sure. So, we continue to work on the current version of the product. Obviously, it's a little bit tough given that we have a certain percentage of the company working on the current version and a certain percentage of the company working on V4. So naturally, new features and such may decrease. The rate of new features may decrease a little bit. But we have been releasing new order types. We just launched stock market orders. So that's been one of the features that a lot of people were talking about and that they wanted. The next step here is to launch reduce only orders. So that is another one that people have been asking for a really long time that we're excited to get out the door. And then once we release that, we will be able to build out bracket orders. So again, just like trying to focus more on features that a lot of our active traders are asking for. As David mentioned at the top of the call, we'll be adding new markets in collaboration with the community who's voting on these things. And yeah, generally, we will continue to kind of build out the current version of the protocol. If there are certain features that you guys want, definitely let us know in Discord. We are reading them. And so we definitely appreciate any product feedback or anything like that. And when you guys do add feedback to these channels and in a really thoughtful manner, we definitely include those learnings in our roadmap.
Awesome, that's great. Yeah, and just to reiterate, guys, if you do want to provide feedback to those channels, then just the product feedback channel that's open on the dYdX trading section of Discord is where to put that. Obviously, currently with the state of the crypto market, Corey, how is dYdX navigating this?
Yeah, I mean, generally, a lot of crypto exchanges are operating similarly to how they were before. Certain key metrics are maybe decreasing. So, volume on the exchange has gone down, open interest on the exchange has gone down. The core product for dYdX remains the same. And, the good thing is we've had really good uptime the whole time. Given that we are decentralized, there's no risks for dYdX really defaulting in any way. So all that stuff is really auditable on chain to a large degree. And so for us, we're really operating business as usual in a lot of ways. We're going to continue to focus on the current product. We're going to really continue to focus on V4. And we're continuing to experiment and focus on different ways to continue to grow the protocol even throughout a bear market. we may decrease the amount of money that we spend on some of these promotions and things like that, just be a little bit less aggressive in terms of, the spending habits of the company, just to ensure that we have, enough runway to, get through a bear market, to get through everything we want to on V4. But nonetheless, it's very much focusing on the same things. But to some degree, we are just becoming even more focused. And I think that's another thing that happens in kind of bear markets is a lot of people leave the market. There's less speculation. There's less noise, and then the builders can kind of put their heads down and start building on the really important things. And that seems to be the direction that the whole space is going. And I'm pretty optimistic that dYdX will continue operating in the same way, and over the long term, that's just going to lead to more impactful products.
Awesome, that's great to hear. And then last couple of questions. Is dYdX planning to put out a podcast? What type of content and episodes will this consist of?
Yeah, so podcast is being worked on. I think we're actually releasing it tomorrow or sometime later this week, the first episode. So this will actually be run for the most part by dYdX Research. So we have a research team that we're building out here, and the podcast will really be centered around, various things. The first episode is talking to one of our market makers, talking about kind of liquidity, talking about different types of exchanges, decentralized exchanges where they trade, different trading strategies, things like that. So the podcast itself will very much be kind of like trading oriented as well as kind of like data driven podcasting.
Awesome. That sounds great. And then last couple, what events are dYdX planning to attend this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. We just attended Consensus. So if anyone was there, you might have come across dYdX. Yeah, I think it kind of depends. Sometimes we, like any of the big crypto conferences, we usually have some sort of representation. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 people. Sometimes it's 5 to 10 people. It kind of depends. We have offices in San Francisco and New York, so any conferences there, we'll certainly have attendees at. But yeah, I mean, other than that, I don't know if we have any concrete plans. We'll likely have some representation at, I think it's called Token 2049, if I'm not mistaken, in Singapore later this year. And we may have some people at like DevCon potentially, I imagine. But other than that, I don't know if there's any other conferences that we've like fully committed to attending, but largely, we go when it makes sense, and we have some people on the team have time to go.
Awesome, thanks for that, Corey. And then lastly, by 0xCLR, who's in the audience today, is the team able to share any color on the efficiency of liquidations this past epoch, and whether any of the safety pool was required? And related to that, has there been any liquidation learnings that the team is going to try and incorporate into the liquidations module? Yeah, so a lot of the liquidation statistics are open. So if you go to metrics.dYdX.exchange, you'll kind of see liquidations over the past 30 days. Overall liquidations have been being performed totally fine. So we haven't had to dig into any insurance funds or anything like that. Also, there's a insurance API endpoint. So if you ever want to query kind of the current status of the insurance fund, you can certainly do so. So liquidations are happening. Unfortunately, this weekend, I think that was like the largest amount of liquidations that we had in all of this year. So that happened on Saturday. And so, unfortunately, there have been a decent amount of liquidations on the platform. But in terms of the health and safety of the exchange, it's totally fine. Fantastic. Thank you, Corey, for that. Right. So I think before we move on to David, Alucard, would you mind posting the link in the Hedgies General channel for the POAP claim If anyone wants to POOP claim, it will be in there. The secret word is Chelsea, CHELSEA. So make sure that you add that word in there as well. So it should be open in the Hedgies General coming on now. Cool. Let's move on to David then. David, first question, with V4 approaching, so how are the foundation viewing kind of DAO structuring?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, there's kind of these two discrete time periods. There's this pre-V4 era, and then V4, which is still set to launch later this year. At which point the community will have full control over all aspects of a fully censorship and decentralized open source protocol. I think in terms of how we view these two discrete sections or time periods, I think with the current version of the protocol, there's already a lot that the community has control over, and we kind of view this current time in V3 to really be able to run a number of experiments and test different hypotheses around how to run and scale a DAO in the most effective way. I think the general principle here is, I think at least the team's view is that most DAOs out there are not run optimally and don't scale super well. I think there's a lot of challenges clearly with coordinating pseudonymous global talent and making sure that those are, that energy is functionally aligned with really the functional needs of the protocol. And so, for us, we've taken a slightly more, progressive approach to DAO structuring and DAO scaling. The ambassador program is a step in that direction. I think we had over 2,000 applicants to join kind of the ambassador program for season 0. After a rigorous process, we ended up selecting 15 people to really, kickstart that process, work out a lot of the kinks, figure out tooling and infrastructure for us to scale. I think largely that'll be an iterative process with experimentation as that process evolves until we launch V4. I think one general principle that I've been spending a lot of time thinking about is really, who are kind of the right members for our DAO, and how do we really drive kind of a greater alignment between our DAO contributors, our token holders, and ultimately how those track along the lines of our users on the platform. Ideally, our DAO contributors are actually users of dYdX. They're users of the product. They understand the pain points, and they want to build in and around the ecosystem and extend that. And so overall, trying to figure out how to increase that overlap is something that collectively we're currently focused on. But ultimately, it's really the community's decision on how the DAO gets structured. I know a number of grantees and community members have shared really interesting research proposals and ideas on Commonwealth. Again, I encourage everyone to continue to view this as an experiment and really the early innings of DAO scaling, and really testing out these concepts in smaller experiments before really opening the floodgates once V4 launches.
Awesome. Thanks, David. And then next question, what are the priorities for the foundation over the next 6 months?
Yeah, that's a great question. The foundation team has expanded pretty significantly in the last 12 months. We're only 12 months old, and we have now close to 10 full-time employees and a dozen or so contractors around the world. We're really focused on a number of things. I think a big focus for us recently has really been trying to drive international growth and really targeting education, marketing, growth campaigns in different markets and different languages around the world, and building tooling and infrastructure to really help drive new user acquisition and retention to drive more users to the protocol and ecosystem. So that's been kind of area of focus number one. Area of focus number two has really been on activating governance. And so, we've been supporting and working with multiple partners and community members who have been interested in submitting governance proposals, whether that's rewards optimization research for the trading or LP rewards, whether it's adding new markets to the protocol, whether it's the dYdX grants program or other ways to drive growth. We've been a credibly neutral partner for all community members and helping them navigate the ins and outs of how to participate in governance. In a similar vein, a big focus for us has been the endorsed delegation program and really getting tokens into the hands of our most active community members. Again, we've onboarded 11 endorsed delegates so far, and generally very encouraging to see the level of engagement from those delegates, both in our forums as well as through voting. And so I encourage the community to think through how to scale the delegation program, how to get more tokens into the hands of the most engaged community members who are going to be proactively participating in discourse and pushing things forward. I think lastly, an increasing focus does continue to be on kind of DAO structuring. Given the market environment, I think collectively we want to be thoughtful around how we think about deploying, funds from the community treasury. How do we still fund, experiments and position ourselves for the V4 launch? I think one shift in thinking that we've been discussing that definitely encourage the community to also think about is rather than really hitting all cylinders on growth given the current environment, I think we're thinking a lot about understanding how to grow and how to structure the DAO in a way that is aggressive but realistic given kind of the overall market sentiment today, and really running smaller scale experiments to be able to get some lessons and insights so that once the market turns around, we can really hit all the cylinders and fire it up from there. So those are some of the priority items for the foundation. But ultimately, if anyone has any feedback or any questions on that, I'm always happy to chat, or feel free to DM anyone from the team here.
Awesome, thanks, David. And then, can you explain how the foundation's role once V4 happens? Do they become part of the DAO, or do they remain separate? Could you touch on that?
Yeah, that's also a fantastic question. I think ultimately, if you think about the mission for the foundation, really our mission is to help foster community-led growth, development, and self-sustainability. The foundation is a nonprofit. We don't generate any revenue. Our goal is to foster decentralized governance and empower our users and traders with open, transparent, and powerful crypto financial products. So, I think if we're successful at the foundation, there's a world where the foundation, frankly, no longer has a purpose anymore. From in that end state, it's really once the DAO and the community is fully mature and can really run in a self-sustainable manner. I think in practice, we definitely still have a long way to go before that vision materializes itself. But I think we're confident that we're on that path. I think once V4 launches later this year, clearly, I think we enter into a paradigm shift or just a different kind of landscape when everything is open source. dYdX trading no longer has the ability to take fees from the protocol, and really, token holders have full control and decision making around all aspects of the protocol. And so ultimately at that point, it'll really be up to the community on, what the role of the foundation will be, how that fits into kind of the DAO and landscape more broadly. Certainly, I would say I'm very proud of the team that we built at the foundation. And, at some point, if the DAO or the community decides to fund the foundation independently through the treasury, or to hire, or, some of our employees move in other capacities within the ecosystem, I think that end state remains to be seen, but ultimately it'll be up to our community how all this plays out. I think for me, I look a lot at kind of the evolution of the Maker Foundation and kind of what happened in the Maker ecosystem as kind of inspiration. I encourage anyone to kind of look at how DAOs and communities evolve over time, and look at kind of the multiple innings that may occur. And I'm excited to go down this path and journey with all of you.
Awesome. Thank you, David. And then can you walk through kind of what the ambassadors are working on for season 1 on just like a broad capacity?
Yeah, sure. I think ultimately the best source of truth for the ambassador program is definitely the Commonwealth threads that all of the ambassadors have been working on and updating. I guess just to go through some of the boroughs and some of the recorded outputs for season 1. So for the analytics borough, the team is focused on doing dashboards, doing Figma design prototyping, polling on Commonwealth, doing some data research on token holders and stakers. For the governance bureau, they'll be kicking off an AMA series called Meet the Delegates. So this will be a way to showcase endorsed delegates and do kind of more publicity around that. They're focused on adding 4 new endorsed delegates from the community, putting together guides on co-op farming, and then they recently onboarded a new ambassador, Andy GG, putting operations manuals together, and then trying to encourage research discussions around different changes to governance. For the media bureau, their focus this season is around building a branding kit that's full of templates and resources for the community to leverage, as well as materials for all types of media, bounty boards, and then supporting the foundations and various other ambassadors with various media initiatives. So this is really focused on driving just a full core of marketing and media initiatives for the protocol. For the risk bureau, the ambassador is focused on putting together weekly market commentary, onboarding a new ambassador. Jacob recently joined, putting together comparative studies for DeFi protocols, tokenomics design, research and investigation, and then trying to determine different models to involve the community in the asset listing process. For the student bureau, they're focused on the delegate side of things, and really leveraging a lot of the university blockchain clubs that are endorsed delegates on the platform to support various initiatives within the ecosystem. And then lastly, the user onboarding and education bureau is really the bureau that's been behind the creation of dYdXacademy.info and dYdXDAO.info. I think both of these resources are really fantastic and are great tools for the community to get up to speed on all the things going on in the ecosystem. Also, just want to give kind of a major shout out to the education videos that were published in dYdX Academy. I think these were really fantastic resources, produced by one of our community managers, Mo, as well as other grantees. But I think really moving towards like video content and trying to onboard new users onto dYdX is probably one of the most impactful things our ambassadors can do in the next 6 months. In addition, the user onboarding and education bureau is focused on, again, just aggregating content, aggregating information on governance and delegation more broadly. They'll be working on education courses, translations, and virtual events for current and prospective users. And so, that gives you just a sense of the breadth of what all of our ambassadors are working on. Again, there's a lot of room for growth here and for more people to get involved. And if you have new ideas or thoughts on how the program should be run, or interested in getting involved, there's also a bounty board which has been launched for community members to get involved and really participate in all of these initiatives. So major kudos for James and all of the ambassadors who have been hitting the ground running with season 0, and excited to see all of these plans get executed over the course of season 1 in the next few months or so.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Yeah, major shout out to all the ambassadors who have really been heads down building and working on this over the last even 2 weeks since less than that, 1 week since they've had the operational funding for it. So yeah, thanks for all your efforts and hard work there. I know for the analytics bureau that there is going to be a space to join the ambassador program in that bureau. Stark Whale and team will be posting on Commonwealth later today for a data engineering ambassador. So anyone here who's got those skills and are interested in applying and becoming an ambassador, then check out Commonwealth later today, and the job role and responsibilities will be on there. So that's really exciting. Cool. I guess we can open up the stage now for the last 5-10 minutes for a couple of questions. If anyone wants to ask anything, feel free to raise your hand and we can bring you up.
So my question was about student battle, because I already observed how each borough make sufficient influence on how dYdX in total. For example, this video about onboarding and also bounty boards and so on and so forth, but I don't observe any stuff from students barrel. And also I want to ask how many persons in student barrels nowadays?
Yeah, that's a great point. And what we are trying to do is foster pure responsibility from these boroughs. It's something that has been addressed and that they need to be posting more on Commonwealth in terms of bounties for what they're doing. In terms of that, I mean, it's to be determined really. A lot of the bounties come from the ambassadors themselves, and they can decide independently within the boroughs what they want to, I guess, give out to community members to complete. At the moment, I think majority are in POOPs. A few will come out, I think, eventually, potentially in dYdX. So keep an eye on that. But I think one thing community members can do as well is post on Commonwealth to inquire about what they're working on and what they are doing. I think, a few community members have brought up the lack of transparency there, and that's something that obviously the governance borough is additionally trying to foster. So Nico, it's a great point, and I think one thing you can really try and bring up is commenting on those posts on Commonwealth, and really getting responses on as to where they are in the season and how they plan to really drive growth in those areas.
Because according to my opinion, it might be very close communication student borough and educational borough. Because according to my view, this one student borough might to bring new audience and young people to attract for the whole crypto industry at all, and also according to my view that their main goal is like to show how to work with same trading platform, also how to use MetaMask and a lot of other things. Actually, what is DAO needs, for what we need collabs, and a lot of other stuff.
Yeah.
Because actually, young people, it might be like new audience and new, quite interesting ideas for future growth of whole community.
Yeah, definitely. Completely agree. I definitely think it needs to be a collaborative approach. And I think that's one thing the ambassador program tries to foster is it's very much not a sort of like an individual game. It's very much like a lot of the boroughs are cross collaborating. And it's something that I think the student boroughs specifically definitely need to encourage more of, whether it be with the governance team and or user onboarding and education team, really trying to drive those kind of like student initiatives at bringing in new potential university audiences, delegates, etc.
Okay, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, all good, mate.
Okay, cool. I have a pretty simple, cool question. Ambassadors, I think at this point, some of us we'd like to have more engagement with delegations, and I personally haven't really gone on board. Like, I haven't really done what I need to do to present myself as a delegate. So I'm pretty, I'm understanding that I should do more. But I feel like some other people are really trying to step up and do what they need to do to be appealing delegates. And as we know, the market makers, VC, and team have maybe an outsized stake in the holdings. How can they, or who should they approach, or who should they talk to really to make an effective case for, like, hey, I'm a good delegate. I want to work with the protocol. I want to better the protocol. I know that they can put some Commonwealth, but I don't think they're always going to get the feedback or maybe the one-on-one discussion that I think some people would like to have to make a personal case on maybe why they're a good delegate and what they should do. So who would they talk to?
I can jump in there.
Yeah, so
go ahead, David.
Josh, feel free to add. I mean, I think effectively, like, at least the foundation does try to highlight the delegates that do complete all of the disclosures that have been posted on Commonwealth. There's information that we ask each endorsed delegate to provide that provides, additional context for potential delegatees who want to kind of evaluate things more broadly. And we do circulate kind of the list of endorsed delegates to some of the investors more broadly. And we have seen, some investors delegate those stakes, and we've seen, average community members also delegate their stakes as well. I think one point that I would flag, and that's maybe like a good case study for those involved. I think Max Holloway at Xenophone Labs is like a great example of this, right? Like, he received funding from the grants committee, ended up working on really impactful research around, optimizing the reward system, posted that on Commonwealth, got a lot of feedback and solicitation from various market makers and investors kind of commenting on his threads. And then I think, he has publicly disclosed that Andreessen Horowitz ended up giving him or delegating some tokens to him as a result of that. And so I think that to me shows kind of the power of building in public and really figuring out on how you're, uniquely positioned to deliver value for the ecosystem as a whole. I think it's really focusing on high quality output and posting that on Commonwealth, trying to show the impact that you drive, and using that as a way to solicit others to delegate tokens to you, I think is like a pretty proven and steady path towards being able to get more tokens. Josh, over to you.
I guess if I can interlude just for 1 second, could we, I know that A16Z has a form that people can fill out, could we maybe just encourage other market makers and other people with outside stake to maybe open up their own form? It would only take maybe 4 minutes, 5 minutes for them to actually, design a form and then put the URL up so that people can approach them without having to maybe kind of get into the fortuitous position of having some sort of conversation with them, or outside of relying directly on a blind facing, hey, I'm looking for alms, can you please, anybody give me alms because I'm doing good things on Commonwealth? Maybe have a little bit more personal, direct, approachable entry to the people.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. If you look at the endorsed delegate kind of onboarding questionnaire that is on Commonwealth, that's largely derived from Andreessen's questionnaire. We've modified it and expanded it a little. The reality is Andreessen can really, work on a bilateral basis with delegates in their network, and have continued to do that. We know that there's a number of investors who want to delegate their tokens, but don't have the same infrastructure resources that Andreessen does to be able to execute on that. So I think that was a lot of the thinking behind the endorsed delegate program, is really to create, a forum for people who are interested in becoming delegates to post that, and then for us at the foundation to continue to elevate those people that do meet the requirements and share that proactively with investors. So we do that every epoch. And again, we have seen some investors delegate tokens as a result of that. Quite frankly, I'm not sure that a lot of our investors will be interested in kind of direct bilateral agreements with every single community member who wants to receive tokens as a form of delegate. I do think the most impactful thing, you and others can do who are interested in building up their reputation kind of in the ecosystem, is really around building your track record, right? So figuring out how to stand out as an endorsed delegate. It's really up to you on how much you want to post, and ultimately, the proof is in the pudding. It's how do you stand out versus the next 1,000 people who want tokens to be delegated to them. I think as an ambassador, you clearly have a track record and have unique insights, and I encourage you to think about how you can display that as publicly as possible.
I will also get to work on the next protocol changing milestone that I can put under my belt and present it. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Darwell. Cool. All right, guys, it's been an hour. We'll close that up here. Thanks everyone for their time and tuning in again, posting questions and asking the team for really detailed responses. Keep up the comments and interactions. I think it's really encouraging to see all the support and feedback. This is really valuable and something that both dYdX and dYdX Foundation really pay attention to. Thanks, Corey, David, Josh, and Clifton for coming on stage and answering the questions. So let's end on that note. This again will be deciphered and posted as soon as we can. And as usual, there's a process involved in the background, but we'll keep you updated as soon as the blog post and YouTube video is up and ready. We'll close it off there. So have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next epoch. Thanks all.